do a bit of salacious gossip here on Power Slam Live, and Mike Chioda, who does his show over ad free shows, he was asked. He had some stuff to say about the McMahons, about how they're getting on, how there is a rift in the McMahon family. So here's what Mike Chioda had to say. He said, yes, so he was talking about Shane, somebody asked him on his show, did anybody have a problem with Triple H dating Stephanie? And he said, yes, Shane did. Triple H, he advised Triple H against going with Stephanie. That's why the feud happened with them and they fell out. It was a big thing from Vince Sr. that came down many years ago. They didn't want anybody dating talent, none of the kids and none of their family. He didn't want them taking bumps, well, which obviously did end up happening. I think Shane really had a big part of that, and that's why Shane and Triple H had a falling out for many years, and that's why Shane was exiled for 10 years. You're not going to have Shane McMahon there. Where is he? He's not there anymore. And then Kyoto goes on to say, it's sad because when I started working for the company, there was Linda, Vince, Shane, and Stephanie, and now it seems to be broken apart. All the money in the world can't fix it. They have all the money in the world, a publicly traded company, which is okay. The family is torn apart at this point, I think. Maybe not torn apart all the way, which I hope not, but it's torn apart. So, I mean, what do you think, Finn? Do you think that Shane, is he there was obviously a feud with Shane and Triple H for a while behind the scenes. You can kind of see
Yeah.
the dynamics of it, and then Shane came back for a little while. It felt like Shane was kind of in again for a while, and now he's gone. Do you ever see Shane getting back involved, or do you think that Triple H is just going to have that kind of son position to Vince, and that's the way it's going to be?
I mean, what we need, Kenny, is the return of Raw Underground. That's what WWE needs. That's going to be the antidote to its ratings woes. It's going to be the cure. So, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, he's right. Obviously, there was a rift back in the late. When did they get together? Was it 2000 or 2001? That's sort of contested, disputed, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When they got together for real, Triple H and Stephanie. But I think it was at some point in 2000.
Yeah.
So, we know they got together on screen in late 99, but it was 2000, I think, when it became reality. And obviously Shane was he seen as the guy who was going to take over from Vince? Obviously he was older, but I don't think he was ever really cut out to run creative. And I think, had he been, I think Vince would have appointed him to the creative team in an official role before he did Stephanie. Stephanie, of course, became head of the writing team in September 2000, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She replaced Chris Kresge. So, there was always, I think, tension between them after that Stephanie was chosen instead of Shane. And Shane did have a position backstage. He worked for the website, was head of global media, wasn't he, for a while? But he was always an inferior junior role, subordinate role to where Stephanie and her soon-to-be husband, Triple H, would be. So there has been tension there. There has been a backstage feud of sorts for, I think, at least 2 decades, sibling rivalry. Because Stephanie, the younger sibling, was chosen by Vince to run creative, which was a far more prominent and powerful position than running the website. I know there was something went down in 2007. I remember running an article on this in Power Slam at the time. I think didn't Shane try to come up with some sort of partnership with the Jackass guys? Do you remember that, Kenny?
Yeah, there was supposed to be a match at SummerSlam, I think, that it was going to involve them and Umaga.
That's right, and they brought them into, and it just, I was reminded of this on Monday of this week when the Jackass guys appeared backstage with Riddle.
Uh-huh.
And there was that incident, I think it was 2007, summer 2007, before SummerSlam that year, and the Jackass guys appeared, and I think Umaga beat them down, and then they no-sold it on camera. Is that ringing any bells?
Yeah. Steve-O in particular, I think, was not up for selling for Umaga.
Exactly. I mean, it's not like Umaga was some like, cruiserweight, some featherweight. I mean, he was, massive bloke. I mean, if you're going to sell for anyone, you're going to sell for that guy. I mean, he looked fearsome, didn't he? So that went down incredibly badly backstage. This was Shane's gig. He was trying to make this thing happen. He thought it would be good for the company. It would be good crossover appeal, and try and get the Jackass fans to watch WWE and potentially buy the pay-per-view. And had it come off, I think it potentially could have been good for WWE, but it basically just got scratched. It got squashed. It got cancelled because people were so livid backstage with the reaction by the Jackass guys to this beatdown from Umaga. And they're like, well, we can't trust these guys to do a match on a live pay-per-view, if they're not going to sell for one of our top heels. So I know Shane basically lost out there. There was like some sort of power play or power struggle backstage. And Stephanie and Triple H were seen by Vince to be in the right, because I think they were opposed to this idea in the first place. And Shane, he championed it. He, pushed it through. And it was seen to be just too risky, and it was just axed. It was over. But was it? I think it was 2009 when Shane officially parted company with the company, wasn't it? It was about October of that year, Kenny. I think it was.
Yeah. I think he said he was going to be gone in the January of 2010. And I was going to ask you though, because why did Stephanie become head of creative? I mean, I don't mean that as a dig, but it just, they had Russo and Ferrara for so long. Then they had this Chris Kresge guy who, by all accounts, was tremendous, and then he left.
Yes. Yeah.
It just seems so bizarre to go from, all these people and then Stephanie.
Yeah, well, I think she made her first appearance on TV. I think it was November '98 backstage with Steve Austin. There's a little backstage in the corridor. That was the first on-screen appearance, and then she appeared just after WrestleMania 15, was it? I think it was with the Undertaker angle.
Yeah, because she was kidnapped. So
that's right. And I think she'd be working in the advertising department prior to that. But I mean, it was like Triple H was somebody who, no doubt at the urging of Shawn Michaels, decided to start pitching ideas and to try and build his power base backstage. And then there was obviously the Stephanie and Triple H marriage in December of '99, and she was involved at this point as well, probably in putting that together. And she maybe thought that she had a flair for it, and Vince probably saw her as the person who could take over from him eventually. And as I understand it, Shane was somebody who just didn't have it in him. He was somebody who just couldn't quite put it together. And he would make suggestions, but no one could ever take him seriously as a booker or as a writer or whatever, as a creative force backstage. It was something that he just didn't seem to have an aptitude for. That, as I understand it, that's the way it was. Mm-hmm. Whereas Stephanie, it was felt that she did understand it, she did comprehend it, she did grasp it, and she could do it. So she became part of the creative team in 2000, I believe. And then when Chris Kresge left, Vince thought, well, this is the time to give Stephanie the job as head of the writing team. And she'll have to step up. She'll have to bring it. She's a McMahon. And, what's that awful cliche, Kenny? Pressure creates diamonds. Well, I'm not sure if anyone would really call Stephanie's booking or writing diamond-like. But no, seriously, I believe it was just Vince thought, well, this is the time to do it. This is what she wants to do. This is what I want her to do. She's with Triple H. She's with Paul, who's been sitting in on creative meetings for at least a year by this point. I think probably longer, actually. So he can back her up if there's an argument or there's a situation. Vince is obviously going to want her to succeed as well. So somebody is going to have really good grounds, to scoff at Stephanie's ideas or anything that she does backstage. So yeah, I think it was just like that. It was just seen like, well, this is her time. It might be too soon, but Chris has gone. And like, if we bring someone else in, what message does it send to the rest of creative and the locker room? The message will be that Vince doesn't think that Stephanie's ready or capable or able or whatever. I think she would have been, what would she have been at that point? Was it 24, I think she would have been? Yeah,
she was young.
So she was still pretty young. But I mean, if you've grown up in the business and you've got a feel for it, and, it's all debatable as to whether Stephanie has or not, that's an education in a sense that you've you've been with it since your childhood. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to do it well, but you've had that training throughout your childhood, adolescence, and into adulthood. So I think Vince just thought, well, it's time for her to step up. If I bring someone else in, it's going to send the wrong message to everyone else on the creative team and the locker room that I don't believe in Stephanie. I think that probably entered into it as well. This sort of, the messaging is, and it's like a huge endorsement by Vince of Stephanie if he gives her this huge promotion so early in her career. So what do you think, Kenny? What's your opinion?
Well, obviously, let us know what you think in the chat of all this. I see Cats and Bourbon said Vince's will on a pole match. So, look, I mean, if Shane versus Stephanie in a pay-per-view, sign me up.
What about Nick Khan?
Oh, well.
Can he not get involved?
He could be the timekeeper. He could Montreal it. Just know when Vince is going to give him the nod. No, I mean, I always feel like Shane was the one who was a more relatable person than Stephanie. Like, it came across that way, that like Shane always seemed to be, I remember did he not get it quite far, that the idea of them buying UFC? He was like, he could come up with ideas and do deals and stuff like that maybe weren't booking. And then Stephanie knew how to play the game, ironically. But, she, I mean, maybe Triple H did just kind of, in 2000, think, you know what? It wouldn't be the worst idea for me and Stephanie to get together. Because, I'm sure they liked each other. I'm sure they let, but it's like, right, imagine you go on a date, right, and you go on a date with somebody and you're kind of on the fence about it, they're okay, will I go home with them, will I not, I don't know, and then they pull out the American Express Gold Card, then all of a sudden you're interested, then you're like, okay, there's money, but if they pull out their, I don't know what the other equivalent would be, if they're given like the 20p's to pay the bill, you're not going to be with his Stephanie. She had the keys to the kingdom, so was.
That's it.
So maybe he just pushed Stephanie. I think you'd be great as the head of creative, And then
I'm sure he did, because that was obviously going to benefit him as well.
Yeah, and then he would have went. Oh, by the way, I know how how Austin was pinned by me the month before WrestleMania, and I'm supposed to turn babyface and go against him. I don't think we should do that. And she goes, okay, well, that's fine. And then they just don't do it.
And Kurt Angle, I mean, okay, the love triangle, it's been fun, but do you really want to go off with Kurt Angle? Olympic gold medalist, one of the greatest performers ever, good-looking guy, like world-class athlete. You don't want to go with a guy. On screen, you don't want to be with a guy like that. He's beneath you.
Well, there's a famous story that Jericho told that Xavier Desmond here saying he could even convince Stephanie she needed to do the job. So Triple H had magical powers. But no, like what was I going to say? I've had a complete brain fart. We're talking about Triple H's death. Oh yeah, so Chris Jericho told a story which it doesn't seem like he necessarily looks like the best person in this scenario. So it makes me think he's probably telling the truth. He said that when you remember the whole Jericho and Triple H feud of 2002, which we're about to get into soon. And Jericho said what they should do is him and Stephanie should get together in the feud. But then Jericho had this idea that they should do a thing where you see a guy from behind with a ponytail tied up, and Jericho goes to Triple H in storyline and goes, by the way, Rob Van Dam is with Stephanie. I've got video proof of RVD and Stephanie. And it's from behind you see the ponytail. And of course, in the end, it ends up being it's Jericho, it's not RVD. And Jericho says that Triple H said, I just don't think that the Triple H character would be that stupid to allow his wife to cheat on him. And you're like, sure, why not? Who cares? Which is just classic Triple H.
Well, I mean, we know the Triple H character cheated on someone else, don't we?
We do, well, which obviously is never brought up at any point. And then years later, I mean, because part of me, I know that China in the end wanted to be in the Hall of Fame and all that, but see, when there's just something a bit crass about them all just, saying how amazing she is. I mean, to be fair, you would never have given China, bless her, you would never have given China a live mic at a Hall of Fame. Although, I mean, can you imagine if they did? Can you imagine if China just said, Stephanie, fuck you, but and then moved on to the next part of her speech, Linda, you're a whore, and then just kept, slating people on the stage? It'd be great. She could throw a shoe at Triple H, just go all out.
That would have been just tremendous if that had happened.
But yeah, so Rocky Kingston says that Shane always seemed like the only McMahon with a foot in the real world. I would have said before that Linda had a foot in the real world, but then she joined the cabinet, so it seems that she does not have a foot in the real world.
And ran for the Senate twice and failed twice.
Yep. I mean,
And
what
spent,
was
it $90 million on the two campaigns?
but like $90 million just to be a senator in one state of America
Yeah.
costs
Yeah.
$90 million to do. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Well, I think that was over the two campaigns. I think it was 80 something million. It was nearly $90 million she spent over the two campaigns.
Didn't they do a thing where Vince woke up out of a dream and he had like Linda for Senate stickers on
Yeah.
on his hospital
Yeah.
gown?
That actually was really funny. That showed some self-awareness there. They could do with more of that in 2021. That's what I say.
They could. Well,
An
listen.
in-joke there. Sending themselves up,